Welcome back to the writer's room. So I've been talking about finding the time to write and ways to support yourself while you're doing that. And our last video was all about all the free time that you have, the extra 4 hours that I gave you in that exercise, where you wrote down your 5-year plan, your 1-year plan, your 6-month plan, calculated how much it was going to cost to get all those things done, then figured out your annual salary that you need to make in order to get those things done, and then a monthly salary to weekly, and finally an hourly rate. So now that you've established what your hourly rate is, you know that there's a whole bunch of stuff you're just not going to do anymore, which then again frees up 4 hours. The other thing that we talked about is checking emails. And that whole process of getting it down to checking emails twice a day for an hour each time, not getting involved in email conversations back and forth. You email somebody once every 24 hours. So, 12 o'clock, you open your email, you respond. You check your email again at 4 o'clock. People have responded back to you. You don't respond to those. You respond to those tomorrow. You only take new information at 4 o'clock, and you write one response to them. So, people are getting a hit from you every 24 hours instead of eating up your entire day in emails. Holla! Okay. So, those were the 2 things we covered in the last video. And again, this 3-video series is in preparation for the free class I'm going to offer in about a week. And you'll have to keep watching the videos to find out when it's going to be and how to register. If you've already signed up at April Yvette Thompson's Writer's Room, .weebly.com or at thedreamunlocked.com. You can sign up on either places, or you can go to the Facebook page, Coaching with April Yvette Thompson, and sign up there. So, if you're already signed up, you're going to get the information on the free class, right? And there's a maximum of 25 people that I can take in this free class. So, the sooner the better. I haven't started a waiting list quite yet, but we're halfway there. So, go ahead and sign up. So, what I promised to talk about in this video was structure and form. Now that you've gotten yourself this extra 4 hours in each day, something that's really, really fascinating, and why all of this is so important and powerful to get your project done now is, Beast of No Nation's new film that Netflix just released. And it is making history because for the first time, Netflix is producing, promoting, and releasing a film and skipping theaters and distributors and festivals altogether. So that means the artist, Cary Fujinaka, who wrote it and directed it, and Netflix are walking away with all the money. Yeah. And Netflix paid him twice the budget of the movie. So essentially, which never happens in distribution, you write your own independent film, it goes to Sundance, somebody picks it up, Sundance Channel, IFC, and they want to buy it. They give you like $2. They don't even give you what you paid to make it, right? You get the honor of getting your film distributed. So most people don't make money with their films. With Netflix now saying, we're going to skip the theaters, we're going to skip all the marketing to theaters and save that money and put it right to streaming. And then Netflix takes on, I'm going to manage the PR and get this out there so it can get nominations. And I'm going to pay you, the filmmaker, exactly what it cost you to make the film, plus that same amount, right? So Beast of No Nation cost $6 million to make, and Netflix straight out paid the filmmaker $12 million. That never happens. So the filmmaker is guaranteed to make his money back and profit. That doesn't happen in regular distribution unless it's a major American blockbuster with stars in it, and it's based on a comic book character, or it's sci-fi action with Will Smith in it. Otherwise, most filmmakers don't make money. What Netflix has now created is a possibility for you to write your script, produce it, and get it sold. And make the money back, right? So this new film starring Idris Elba, it's groundbreaking. And what's also really important about it is that this is a film that normally wouldn't make money because it's an art film. It's about child soldiers. It's a smaller budget. It's like a Sundance film. It's getting millions of viewers. I mean, like, what, Netflix has 40 million subscribers? This is groundbreaking what Netflix is doing. It is taking corporate America out of the prescription for getting your film made. It's saying, we will get your film made, we will promote it, and we will pay you for having made it. That never happens, people. So if you aren't running and sitting down right now and writing, you're crazy. You're waiting for somebody to hire you. You could make your own product and get paid to do it. And then get all the money that it makes for the next 50 years. This is the time. There's all sorts of platforms for your script to get explored on. There's web series. Now there's web series channels. People are getting paid. You could write a web series and get paid for it. You could be a self-producing artist working full-time in your craft. So why aren't you? This is the $1 million question, which we will explore really in concrete steps. 15 concrete steps. How to move from this year, I'm working for someone else, and 12 months from now, I'm working full-time as an artist. Getting a regular check. Selling my stories. Not worrying about somebody to pick it up and do it for me. I'm selling my stories. I'm getting paid for my craft. So, that's what I teach. And that is exciting that that has happened. And one of the really important things about writing is my client, Sharon Stewart, who just had a baby. We started working together when she was 6 months pregnant, writing. She said, I want to write a solo show, and I want it to be done by the time my baby's 1 year old. I mean, I'm pregnant. All I'm going to do is stay at home, so I might as well write. Now, anybody who has a kid, a new baby, or even being pregnant when you already have a child at home, right, is a lot. And she set the task to herself, I'm going to write. I have no excuse not to. She's an actor turned writer. She's like, I'm going to learn how to write during this period, and I'm going to focus on taking care of my 2 children and writing. And really, the sort of impediment of being pregnant and raising a kid forced her to really downsize and focus. And a wonderful thing that she said to me in our session the other day, and her work is just like, she's never written anything, ever. The baby is born, and she is still writing, right? But what she said to me is, it's 4 o'clock, it's my weekly session with April. I'm making an announcement to the family, do not eat my time. This is my time to write. She got more to do than all of y'all. She got to run a house, get a toddler to school, nurse her baby, run hither, thither, and yon. And she still has an acting career, right? But what she did that nobody else has done is said to everyone in her life, I'm doing 2 things. I'm raising my children and I'm learning how to write. And the next thing that we set up in our private coaching, and I work with her as a writing coach privately, we meet once a week, is we set, at least she looks at me like I was crazy. I was like, okay, so these are the 10 developmental labs, theater festivals that you're going to submit your work to, and these are the deadlines. What that does is force her not to miss a session with me each week. What that does is forces her to get me that dead on 25 pages each week if it kills her, because she's got to get it ready for her Sundance Lab submission in January. And we set deadlines for it to be done. That's how you get writing done. The first part is you let everybody in your family know, everybody that is in your life, these are the 2 things I'm doing. One of those things are things that you must do, like go to the job or raise your kid. The other thing is your art. And you make no compromises about that time that you set aside, right? And then finally, the third thing, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today, is learning structure. Please go someplace and learn how to write. If you find yourself going to a page all the time and you can't finish, and it's not because of time, or you're telling me it's block, if you've never written anything before, it's not block. It's you don't know how to write. And it's not rocket science. You go to school to learn how to do anything else. You go to school to learn how to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a scientist, to be an engineer. You go to school to be a nurse. You go to school to be a ballerina. You go to school to be a contemporary dancer. You go to school to be a professional working actor. And if you're not making money in your acting career by now, and you look at people with MFAs, Let's put two and two together, right? Or you look at people who went to those studios or studied privately with a coach for a couple of years. They're working. Writing is exactly the same way. You get in a writing class, you get a writing coach. And you find out who your coach is going to be a couple of ways. You research writers whose work you like and really try and pinpoint why it is that you like their work, right? And then the next piece when you pick a coach is, what is their track record? Is their stuff getting produced? Do they write and produce the kind of stuff that you want to do? Are they getting nominated for the awards that you want to get? Are they getting into the festivals that you want to get into, or the developmental labs? Are they being produced at the theaters that you want to be produced at? Are you like them? Research where you want to be so you can figure out how to get there, right? When I wrote my first solo show, I was very clear. I want to write a piece of political theater that is a solo show, that is a well-made play, not me just standing there doing some monologues so people can see I can act. Everybody already knew I could act. I wanted to become a writer in the same way that my client Sharon wants to become a writer. She's taking her time, she's moving everything off the table, and it's her kids and this play. End of story. End of story. Right? And if you did the exercise from the previous video, go back and watch it. It's on thedreamunlock.com. It's on my Facebook coaching page. It's on my YouTube channel, April Yvette Thompson. Watch that first video about finding the time to write. Right? It will teach you how to move out crap that's not important. So you have set up the two things you're focusing on, and you have given notice to everyone in your life that this is the time each day that I write, each week that I write. I will not be interrupted. And so your family has to organize around that. If you're going out to the gym for an hour every day or to your yoga class, your family would organize around that, right? If you don't plan it and schedule it, it will not happen. And once you plan it and schedule it, you need to treat it like a chemotherapy treatment. You wouldn't miss that, would you? Okay, not if you were in stage 4 cancer. I mean, I'm being a little dramatic, but you have to be a Nazi about your time, because time is money, right? And when you have more time, you get more money because you are working more at what you dream of doing and making a living at it, right? And then you're going to get a coach. And you've figured out who your coach is going to be by taking a class with them, Googling them, finding out what their track record is like, reading or seeing some of their work, right? Have they produced? What have they produced? Can you watch it on Netflix? If you can, you need to be worried. Can you Google them and find reviews of things that they've written or produced? Then you should be studying with them immediately. That's what I did, right? I was working as an actor on plays, and then I met the creators of The Exonerated, and they were really brilliant at doing political theater. And I knew I wanted to do political theater. Who better to collaborate with? Right? Then I collaborated with one of the writers of The Exonerated, Jessica Blank, and in that collaboration, I learned form for political theater. I knew how to write an essay. I was an English major. I didn't know how to write political theater. So I partnered with someone who did. Right? And now everything that I write, Jessica reads. Right? And I have like writers who I love. I love Marcus Gardley. I love Jessica Blank. Everything that I write before the rest of the world sees it, Jessica Blank and Marcus Gardley see it. Right? And I built relationships there. Those are people I collaborate with. I give them feedback. I support them. Marcus Gardley, any place in the world he wants me to act for him for free, I'm doing it because I think his writing is genius. Right? And I created that relationship after I saw his work, and I was like, I want to write the way his poetry sings on the page. I want to write that way. And I told him, I was like, you're going to be my friend because you are a freaking genius. And I want to learn how to do what you do. And he's like, you already know what you do. I was like, no, I don't know how to do that. And I'm going to spend 5 years learning. And nothing stops that. That meant there were a whole bunch of jobs on the road that I wasn't taking because I was learning to write. It meant staying my behind here, meeting with my writing collaborator for a weekend a month. It meant focus. Okay? My cat is trying to join us in the video. Come on, Alejandra. They don't need you in the video. We're very regular here, right? Because I don't spend my money on high value videos and selling you cha-cha-cha and blah, blah, blah. I'm selling you content. And I'm selling you, I did this, you can do this too. Right? Stay tuned for part 2 of this video. Welcome back to the Writer's Room. So I was responding to your surveys and we found that time was the big one. And that's what we discussed in our last video. And if you didn't get a chance to see that, I want you to go to April Yvette Thompson's writersroom.weebly.com or thedreamunlocked.com or to my YouTube channel, April Yvette Thompson, and watch that video. Or my Facebook page, Coaching with April Yvette Thompson. Because that information about finding the time is critical. Now I want to talk about form. Learn how to write. As I spoke of in part 1 of this video, learn how to write with a coach. It's important. Learn form. For example, if it is, well, this is play, screenplay, solo play, I only deal with great writing. Not what's going to happen when you put it on its feet and people start talking. If somebody tells me, oh, well, you have to see it to understand it, I was like, well, then it's not in the writing. Because if you begin with the writing being great, everything else will fall into place. It will become director-proof, actor-proof, editor-proof. It has to be on the page. And the first 15 to 25 pages are really, 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 really tricky. And an independent films, if it's really independent and low budget, it's 90 pages. Anything more than that, as an independent film producer, I'm like, more than 90 pages, this is a rough draft. None of it's an indie feature, right? A play. The first 15 pages, I need to meet the protagonist. Who is the hero? And when I ask people, who is the heroine? Who is the person that learned something in this story and is changed by the end? And they go, well, I don't know. I'll be like, well, then the play has no form. The screenplay has no form, and you just wandering around. And let me tell you something about form. Things that don't have form don't get produced. Things that have form get produced. Plain and simple. Because all form does for the writer is it's a way of writing that creates anticipation, that creates empathy for the major protagonist, and the story has a way of opening the door and allowing the audience in. If you don't have that, that's the purpose of a protagonist, right? So I'm sitting out in the audience and I can say, there but for the grace of God go I. That's what keeps me in the story, period. And in those first 15 pages, I have to know whose story it is. Who am I following? Who am I meant to identify with? And I'm only going to identify with them if they seem truly real, flawed human beings, but that I also like. And people make the mistake of writing unlikable characters all the time. Well, if you've got $80 million and it's a major studio and it's already a comic strip that already has 4 billion readers, okay, then you can write some bad guys. If it's a low budget or you're a first time writer, if I don't care about anybody, I'm not staying on the page after page 10. It's really just that simple. And in order for me to care about them, they have to be complicated. They can't be stereotypes. They can't be something I've seen already. That's first time writer, right? First time writer. You're not writing a big formulaic thing that's, a musical on Broadway or, a big studio film that follows formula. You're a first time writer or an early career writer. You have to create characters that I've not seen. They're incredibly complicated and interesting that I care about and can't wait to learn more about them. Right? They have to be human. Which is why when I tell people when they're writing autobiographically, I'm like, well, I need you to vomit on the page everything you have to say about your mother and your father and how much you hate them and how they damaged you as a child. Great. Done doing that. Now you have to treat your father, the character, give him a different character name. He has to be a fully realized person, not just the person you see as your father. He has to stand alone. He has to have reasons for the things that he does and the beliefs that he has, even if they're flawed. We have to understand from whence he came and care, right? And have compassion for him. That's what keeps a reader in the story. They're complicated and they're real. And give me a heroine. Give me a hero to follow. I always say heroine because women are superior creatures and we are the center of the universe. Now, men become superior creatures when they allow women to be a part of their lives. Yes, I said it. Work with it. Okay, so you have this heroine that I care about. All right, I need to know what their fatal flaw is. As soon as you introduce them, you don't have to tell it to me outright. I just need to know, this is a stubborn woman who always gets her way. Look how she's messing herself up. And I need that fatal flaw to be introduced in action, not somebody telling me, hi, and I just went to Howard and I got my MBA from Columbia and I have a Volvo and I'm driving in it. I'm not going to talk about a filmmaker who makes movies like that all the time. You can't tell me who a person is. You have to show me. And the way that you show me is you allow a problem to pop up and then the heroine has to take action. And that's how I know who they are. Right? I have a brilliant client. She's going to kill me. But I have a brilliant client, Liz Morgan, writing right now that I'm working with. It's a coach. And her script is genius. Like, it opens with, sort of a guess who's coming to dinner. The parents are expecting their daughter's date. They don't expect it to be the guy that it is. And the guy is like 15,000 worlds away from them, and they're like, how did this even happen? We don't even know how to talk to him. There's a huge problem from the very beginning, so I'm in the story. Because I know what it is to have a child, and then somebody's at the door who's going to take my child away and maybe have sex with them and exchange bodily fluid. Like, I'm in the story. I'm like, oh, this is juicy. Because it's bound to be some crashes and burns. And how those parents deal with that guy coming to dinner who they didn't expect is the action. I need that in the first scene. I need all of the major players introduced, including the protagonist, and I need to know what their fatal flaw is. Have to know it. You don't have to explain it in detail, but they have to take action upon somebody, so I have a hint. That's their problem. That's going to pop up as a problem, right? Like, and when you hear the audience go, you've done the writing well, because you've introduced a real person that we're like, they about to mess themselves up. We don't know how, but we know that they have an issue that gets in the way of their success. And that's what this whole story is about. First 15 pages, the protagonist, the hero, right? And you have to know ahead of time, right? Because this is where you're going through the whole story. You have to know what their fatal flaw is, and you have to know what the major event of the script is that's going to change them. Because they must be changed by the end of the story. Otherwise, why were we here and why were we identifying with them? And each scene, you drop in another problem that forces them to take action, which forces them to learn something that leads into the next moment, right? Those first 15 pages, so you can start dropping in plot points, which really, what creates a plot point is a problem, conflict, something that forces the players to take action and turns the story in the next direction, right? Oh, she's dating this guy we don't like. We're going to break up this relationship. Like, we have to come to that conclusion, right? So it is problems that create plot points. And the plot points start to tumble and become faster and faster as you start adding more problems. But first you have to establish who everyone is. And you establish who they are in relationship to each other. You establish what they're going to do in this story, right? There's the subject, which is the heroine, the hero, the protagonist. And then everybody else is helping to tell their story. And sometimes they're helping to tell their story by their own little stories being in operation, and they have to get something from the protagonist. But all of their mini stories, those detours, they feed into the protagonist's journey, which is why the first 15 pages are critical. And I would suggest you start with a huge problem that involves all the major players having to come together. That's why scripts always start with the prodigal son comes home, the family reunion, at the middle of a kidnapping scene. Like, it starts at the height of the action. What that allows you, the writer, to do is start introducing folks, because people have to start solving problems, because we've begun with a huge problem that has to get resolved. And that problem has a time limit, right? That first problem that you're presenting in that first scene, it has a time limit, right? It's got to happen in the next 5 minutes, and it's got to end in the next 20, right? A dinner party. where, this guy comes to pick up the girl and these parents are not expecting him. Well, a dinner party has an ending, right? It's not going to be more than a couple hours. That's what you're doing in that first